Recently in the media, there's been increased focus on mass shootings and gun ownership. I think something that takes a little bit of a back seat to media attention is drunk driving and the penalties that surround it. This led me to believe or to wonder if drunk driving penalties are too harsh or not harsh enough. So how does alcohol affect the body and mind? In addition to altering one's ability to drive a vehicle, being under the influence of alcohol also affects judgment and coordination. According to the New York State Department of Motor Vehicle, the level of impairment varies due to 5 factors. These factors are how much alcohol a person is consuming, how much food they're eating, either before or while they're drinking, the length of time spent drinking, their gender, as well as their body weight. In New York State, there are 5 alcohol-related violations. There's driving while intoxicated, which requires a blood alcohol content or BAC of 0.08% or higher. Aggravated DWI, which requires the blood alcohol content to be 0.18% or higher. Driving while ability impaired, or DWAI, involves it to be more than 0.05% but less than 0.08. There's also violations for chemical test refusal, which is when somebody refuses to take a breathalyzer or refuses a blood or urine sample. There's also a zero tolerance law, which involves drivers under the age of 21, if any of them are caught driving with a blood alcohol content of 0.02 to 0.07, that violates the zero tolerance law. Blood alcohol content thoroughly affects the abilities of driving as well as other motor functions. Typical effects, and these statistics are from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. If you have a 0.02, there will be some loss of judgment, relaxation, body warmth, and altered mood. This will decline visual functions and the ability to rapidly track a moving target. And this will also decrease the ability to complete 2 tasks at one time, which is often required while driving. At a 0.05, there's exaggerated behavior, loss of small muscle control, such as focusing your eyes, impaired judgment. People usually feel good, and there's lowered alertness. As far as how a 0.05 will affect driving, it reduces coordination, reduces the ability to track moving objects, difficulty steering, reduced response to emergency driving situations. At a 0.08, muscle coordination becomes poor. People usually have difficulty walking and talking, seeing and hearing. It will be harder to detect danger. They'll have lack of judgment and self-control, and their reasoning and memory are also impaired. People will also have difficulty concentrating. They will have short-term memory loss and inability to control their speed, as well as impaired perception. At a 0.10, there's clear deterioration of reaction time and control, slurred speech, poor coordination, and slowed thinking. This will also make it difficult for drivers to maintain the lane that they're in. So that's usually, at that point, will be when they start changing lanes or swerving back and forth. At a 0.15, there's far less muscle control than normal. People may start vomiting unless they have an alcohol tolerance that at a 0.15%, there will be severe impairment to vehicle control. It will be very difficult to pay attention to driving as well as process visual and auditory information. There's several penalties for drunk driving. Most of them are fines. You can also serve jail time, and licenses may also be revoked. For a first offense, driving while intoxicated, there's a mandatory fine of $500 to $1,000, a maximum jail term. Due to plea bargaining, most people probably won't serve jail time for their first offense, but it's possible. They're likely to get their license revoked for a minimum of 6 months. For their second DWI, it's a $1,000 to $5,000 fine, and they can spend a maximum of 4 years in jail. And at that time, their license would be revoked for at least 1 year. For a third DWI, the penalty would be $2,000 to $10,000 fine and a maximum of 7 years in jail. And then at this point, their license would be revoked for 1 year as well. For a driving while ability impaired, which is the DWAI that I spoke of before, the mandatory fine is $500 to $1,000 with a maximum jail term of 1 year, and their license would be revoked for at least 6 months. A second DWAI would be $1,000 to $5,000 fine and 4 years in jail, and their license would also be revoked for 1 year. For people under the age of 21 that violate the zero tolerance law, there would be a $125 civil penalty. There would be no jail time, and their license would be suspended for 6 months. A second zero tolerance law violation would be the $125 civil penalty again. There would be no jail time, and their license would be revoked for 1 year or until they turn 21. If someone were to refuse a chemical test, there's a $500 civil penalty. And for commercial drivers, so people who drive semis or company trucks, the penalty increases $50. Their license would be revoked for at least 1 year or 18 months for commercial drivers. As far as statistics, specifically in New York, annually there's about 283 drunk driving deaths, and that was from MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Nationwide, each day people drive drunk more than 300,000 times, but only about 2,800 people are arrested. That was according to the FBI in 2015. In 2013, a total of 1,149 children, 14 and younger, were killed in motor vehicle traffic crashes, and that's according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Every day, 29 people die due to alcohol-related crashes. That translates to about 1 person every 50 minutes. And one of the statistics that stuck out most to me was this last one. An average drunk driver has driven drunk about 80 times before they're ever arrested for the first time. That really speaks volumes to how many times it can actually be happening before someone's caught. So if you think when you see someone getting arrested for drunk driving, just imagine that they've been doing it for a decent amount of time before that. Also, one that I didn't include on the PowerPoint that's still accurate. Many people think that drinks are the same, but a standard drink is defined as 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits, which would be a shot of vodka or whatever you prefer. Each of these contains the same amount of alcohol, which is also, people don't think that a shot has as much alcohol in it as a beer because they aren't drinking as much, which is untrue. What can be done? We use ignition interlock devices, which requires a driver to blow into a breathalyzer before that they can start the vehicle. As with any law, there's loopholes. I think it was last year I was at a concert at SPAC, and someone wanted to move their truck, so one of their friends had come over to my group of friends and asked if any of us hadn't been drinking. My one friend said no, and she asked why, and he said that he had an ignition interlock and he wanted to move his truck. So it's very simple to have somebody just do it for you, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of it. We could increase DWI checkpoints. I know I've been driving for 6 years and I've only ever gone through one. And we can also increase penalties for those who are caught driving drunk. I know some of the fines, I don't think $500 is all that much. Last year I had a speeding ticket that my fine was $325, which I thought that was excessive, but I wasn't driving drunk. So thinking I could only pay $175 more than that if I were drunk is kind of scary. Now that you know the facts of drunk driving and the statistics, do you think that our drunk driving laws and penalties are harsh enough, or could we improve them?